show up someone's organisation. Okay, so where is Sylvia? We're going to do her first. And don't sit on it yet, Sylvia. We'll just... So, Sylvia, do you mind me talking about our FI, Sylvia? So Sylvia's request yesterday was that she gets a lot of discomfort down her left side. Yeah. And it's worse when she has to stay in one position. Yeah. So she's much better if she's moving, if she's shifting a weight. Yeah. So what does that tell me as the practitioner? Yeah? So it tells me Sylvia can move her weight a lot, and she's probably moving her weight a lot, but to find all of this adaptability isn't as much there, because that's what makes standing comfortable. Yeah? And, you know, with a lot of my clients, it'll be something as simple if they always just put one foot forward and shift your weight, put one foot back and shift your weight, widen your base of support and shift your weight, but don't stay where you always are. Yeah? How do we keep? Just by a simple, you know, have my foot in, have my foot out, how do I keep adapting the position so I'm not always taking the weight in the same way? So when we got, we'll see if you can reproduce what happened when you sat on this disc yesterday. Yeah, forget the lesson. So when Sylvia sat, because I wanted to make her unstable. That's what this disc is going to do. Yeah? I wanted to see where she went when she got unstable. So, yeah, let it all go, Sylvia. Back you go. And that's what she did. Yeah? So we give her an unstable surface, and it's like, oh, my God. So even though she knows how to shift her weight. And I deliberately said to her, when you sit on this, Sylvia, don't try, just where would you go? Where are you organised to go? Huh? You've learned something. Huh? She went back there. So she's going backwards in space a lot to do it. Come back. You can be the bits you've organised. Your new me. Huh? Yeah, she just went straight backwards. Huh? And then at the end, it was gorgeous because it's so Sylvia. She got forward. No. She got forward, and then she didn't want to go anywhere else, really. I'm just going to stay forward. So it was like the other day, you know, well, what happens if you... No, I'm just staying forward. You know, I've got the... So I know, again, Sylvia really she wants to stay within what's new for her. Do you know what I mean? How I don't want to go back there. So she doesn't yet trust herself that she can do that. To go back just a little bit towards where she goes and come forward again. No? And again, this is what you're working with, and this is where the disc can be powerful, because it's opening up options for them. Because it's that little bit more unstable, it can really show them different ways. Yeah? Thank you, Sylvia. That's plenty, because I don't want to undo your lesson. Okay. Yes?
Yeah. Sylvia.
It was our plan to go to dance with Julieta. And I said, I don't want to go to dance, because if I go to dance, I don't want to come back to my habit.
Here it is again.
I don't want. I want to just try to keep this and continue movement more. Aware.
Adding more to this.
Yes.
Yeah. That's great. Okay, Lockie, over you come. I've been telling Lockie I'm going to do this with him for the first week. Well, again, what would you say about you, Lockie? Do you know what I mean? Would you say you're more like this and you're like moving around, or yeah.
You find it hard if I'm standing
Absolutely.
for a long time. Sore
Yeah.
back, sore feet.
This is classic for
Yeah.
people. How do they find stability within, or instability within stability? It doesn't have to be fixed. I've still got all of these options open to me, even though, yeah. So, you know, when do I want, you know, because it's I think I might have said this, you look at a lot of older people and they're told that they've got an instability problem, that they fall too easily. They've got a stability problem, believe me. They're holding so much to prevent them falling in the end. They're so terrified that they've lost all their, their instability. Huh? So with them, it's about how do I show them these more subtle shifts. So yeah, so what I've sort of observed in Lockie is he likes to shift his weight a lot when he's in sitting, and he has particular ways of doing that. So again, and I usually notice that when he stands, this is his configuration. He wouldn't ever think to have one foot a little bit forward of the other.
No, I'm trying.
Yeah?
I do sometimes do that at work.
You do that one. You do cross the midline, absolutely. Yeah. So he knows something about shifting weight. So, you know, these are the things I'm really interested in with this base of support. So how to sit. And again, you're just seeing where the disc might take you. And this is what I say, he's left, right. This is so Lockie. He really understands this direction. Yeah? And what the disc is doing is just illuminating that a little bit more for me. So if we said to Lockie to go forward back on the disc, you can see his breaths already held to go back a little bit. And he's chosen to go back before he comes forward. These are all the things I'm looking for, the orientations, where can he shift his weight. And you can see that as soon as we let him do this, which is where he knows, all of this has got so many options. Yeah, his shoulders are freer, his arms are lighter. Whereas as soon as we say go backwards and forwards, so it's an orientation issue as well. Do you know what I mean? It's not just that his head needs to know his pelvis, it's which of these ways of moving in the world does he understand? Ready to do you're happy to do a little bit? On the watching? Yeah, if we do a little bit. So he knows how to go left and right. So again, I'm already working out what am I going to do if I put him on the table that would make this an easy direction to go in so that we can build other planes. I know that I have to get him, let him have a fair bit of instability or a lot of space to move about in. So, you know, a lesson I might choose for Lockie might be kneeling over the table, where this is still, but he's going to have a fair bit of give still available in his hips and pelvis to shift weight. Side lying, I'm definitely not going to put him where he gets too fixed. Yeah. And if I was going to get him on his back, we're going to be doing a lot of side bending to start him off. But let's just see if we can show him something on the disc. So at the moment on the disc, and this disc is actually got heaps of air in it, so it's highly unstable. The discs I actually use at home are a little bit bigger. They're not pumped so full of air. So I've got people, clients of mine, who cannot sit on a disc. It's so highly unstable to them, they literally just can't cope. No? Usually got a lot of pain, feel threatened by any instability. But this is telling me a lot about how he works. This is down here. So, Lockie, sit a little further back. Yeah, either pull the disc forward. So now I'm getting him more in the middle of the discs. You couldn't see it, but he was more forward on the disc. Yeah, yeah. Does that make, so that, can you feel just being more in the middle of the disc? Look how much finer his movement is here. That's what I'm looking for. If we go back to where you were, Lockie, more on the front, is tipping. So he's got to do a much bigger, he can't make those really fine adjustments. Okay. So if I asked Lockie to just take his knees in and out a little bit, and I'm going to say to him, so this is sort of a sideways movement again, you can say, and I'm going to say, Lockie, where would your pelvis go? Because I've sort of constrained him now, because can you feel if you bring your knees in and out, that's not a sideways movement with your pelvis. No? If I let him do that, no, that would be more going with what he understands, which is what he does a lot in sitting. He goes from one side sitting to the other side sitting. I've been watching you, Lockie. No? But you can feel to do that, you've got to let your pelvis tilt a little bit more forward and back. I don't care how he tilts it. I don't care if he comes forward when he's bringing his knees forward, because you can do it either way. No? Because I know that this movement is going to make him come more midline. Which is what Feldenkrais has been doing with Larry. That whole thing of rolling the legs in, finding that midline coming up. So we're sort of doing the same thing here with Lockie. We're rolling in, he's rolling his weight in on his feet, and he's got to start, and he's getting it, engaging something in his belly. Yeah, you can reverse. You'll still have to engage something in your belly. And he's got to start engaging something in his inner leg. He doesn't even have to think of that at the moment. It'll come, yeah? Because when you see Lockie and he's got this side to side, what I see is he thinks more of the outside of himself. He doesn't think of this middle line. Yeah? So just do that a few more times, Lockie. Now can you do it and keep your pelvis as quiet as possible, not fixed. So could you imagine if you're doing this on yourself and I asked you to keep your pelvis really quiet? What might you have to start mobilising deep in your pelvis, in your pelvic floor, bringing the weight more onto his big toes, but not, no? So I'm asking him to stay on this highly unstable disc. I'm asking him to find a little bit of stability. Huh? Yeah. And then I can ask him, as he's going apart, can he begin to keep that stability? Because that's going to be a bit harder for him. Yeah? Because he's going to be used to giving when he, so that he can get slowly a bigger range of this movement. Yeah, there he dropped it. Can you see when he drops the support? They can observe it, it's okay, Lockie. He just gets a bit heavier on the disc. Yeah? So bring them together where you feel you're more engaged, Lockie. So this is a little bit like, if you like, the lesson we just did. We've crossed the midline with your legs to get you in Indian sitting. We're not out here with the feet together. He's got you in Indian sitting where you've crossed the midline with here. He's going to bring you into crossing the midline here as well. And now, Lockie, just keeping that little bit of support down there. Now begin to cross your, keep that on a little bit. And now begin to cross your elbows. Yeah, and down. And the other way. And look what's just happened in here, because he's got a little bit more support down in here. There he goes. Because if we take that support away from him, now do it, Lockie. Can you see it's a totally different movement now? Yeah? What do you see? There's no up and down anymore. Yeah? So get your support back again. Do it again. Look where his collarbones go now. Look where his shoulders go. Huh? Whereas when he hasn't got that support there, they come around this way. Yeah? So he's got to shift his weight a lot more. Huh? Do it again. Because then, look what could maybe... No, it's okay, sorry. Just let your weight shift. But small. No, you go down where it's comfy. Small. Because now he's got a possibility of something happening in here. Here, Lockie, it's not your shoulder. It's something has to happen here. No, it's okay. Sorry, I'll take my hand off. What could he let happen through here now? It's going to let that shoulder get freer. Huh? Now let this go again, Lockie. Nothing's really happening in here now. It's all down in here. So how does Lockie need to get more support down here to let this come alive? Huh? So this is something, I'll use a lot with clients, that they get this stability, and then if you reached your arm now, but don't shift your weight much, anywhere you want, Lockie, just reach with your arm. Could you let more happen up the top? So I'm making him stabilise his pelvis, not fixate it, to keep it more stable. So something here, because Lockie's always going to get around this, and a lot of you will too. Yeah? There he goes. Versus that, where he doesn't, and you can see the drop in him, that he's sort of lost that easy, light connection. Because at that point, I guarantee his arms got heavy. Huh? Whereas here, his arm's still light, because it's got support under him. He's still got the ground. So it was really interesting when I was working with Sylvia yesterday, because one of the things was that in sitting, Sylvia's arms were really heavy. They weren't in her image, really. She sort of did everything through here. My question as the practitioner is it just that she doesn't understand that in her self-image? Do you know what I mean? She's just holding it. Or is it that her foundation isn't clear enough to allow this to even become alive? Are you following my thinking here? Yeah? So is it that I'm going to go here and try and fix this, if you like, because it's heavy? Or am I looking at generally, what makes an arm light? What makes a leg light? What is it that she needs to understand in a bigger picture that is going to make a difference? I think so. You've still got it so beautifully. So for Sylvia, the big one for her was that she always, and this is lots of people, she lets her belly go. She just lets this spread between the front of her pelvis. Yeah. So that goes. So with Sylvia, it was a lot about how can we bring this in so that she's got some support and connection to her legs. That if this stays wide, she's never going to have. No? So what is it that she needs to understand? Yeah, that'll give you've got something to work with there now, Lockie. Okay, next one, Alistair. I'm just going to show you on this. Alistair's a different proposition, but again, it's still giving me ideas. Alistair's been telling me he's got problems with his right foot. Standing again is the issue. Now, when he has to stand for a long time, and there's things going with his foot, but that's not the point. If we get him on the disc and we just say, let the disc take you where it takes you. Yeah, over here. Heavy, this is where he gets his... Where do you think he gets his pain? Which foot? Can you feel? You're just ready to go heavy over there. He just lets everything go over here. No. So then stand just so they can see this, because normally what Alistair does, he's not on the heel of this foot. Yeah, he's constantly, and it's not a problem with his arch, it's his heel. He just drops off his heel. Yeah? I could do a million things with that heel, but that's not the issue. The issue is getting more stability in here so he doesn't just drop. So if Alistair was on the disc, yeah, so we'd get him more. Can you go back to the centre from there? Where's centre? Because he thinks this is centre. Huh? And you can see, and I'd make that aware. Can you feel, Alistair, that when you come this way, everything just sort of gets heavy? Oh. Let's go back to the middle. Can you come across and stay where it's light, where your arms are light, your feet? Now go back from there. I'm going to build him up. Reversibility, quality. This is what I'm going to send him home with. Huh? Okay, this time, Alistair, could you come a little bit forward and to the right? Oh, no, you lose it really. Huh? So maybe if we go back and to the left, and now come forward to the right. Yay, and back to the left. So this pelvic clock, this ability to find all of these ways of responding over our hip joints, about this being adaptable, changing our shape. And as long as I don't keep taking him to where he's having problems, this is all going to start organising. Yeah? Yeah? And what you'll see is people will become, so this is the learning, I'm shifting his attention. Come back to the big picture. Alistair, these are the learning strategies I'm sending him home with. Reversibility is really important. Going slow, making distinctions. Huh? And then gradually, as he gets this, I might put in more options. As you come over to the right, Alistair, could your head turn a little bit and you come over to the right? So I'm going to put more options in up here. Huh? So go back to the centre a little bit. Do it there. Huh? And turn your head. Huh? because he wants to go. He doesn't want to come onto this leg. That's why he doesn't feel safe on it, except to drop. So that's when I'm going to build in. Okay, could you come over here and your chin could bend? You know, this could bend, or you could look up. So I'm really just using the head as a lever into this. Huh? So not that. So I'm going to be asking him to shift his weight as he's doing it. There you go. Huh? Could you bend your left ear towards your left shoulder and come over here? How many ATMs you do on this? See how that's much easier for him if he takes his to get over here? What about your right ear to your right shoulder, Alistair? Yeah. Could you come a little bit this way? There you go. So him exploring these options, him opening up all of these possibilities that we're talking about of the head and the pelvis and everything. Within, when do I want stability? Some people are so fixed, I want this to get them to move. You know what I mean? I want them to feel that second one, staying in one place in the possibilities, compared to, I can go over there and everything's, I'm not always doing this. I can go over there and let my weight shift. I can go to lie down and everything is following me. This is all this stability and instability. Keeping, you know, have a stand and just see, does that feel any different in your heel, even though we haven't done anything on your heel, Alistair? So this is what we're looking for. What does the brain understand? What's it, you know? And, you know, I can't give you the research that says this is how the brain understands movement. But there's something really fundamental in what Feldenkrais understood about how we make sense, and the environment must be in there. Huh? So just have a stand, go for a step now onto that right foot and just feel, do you have more adaptability over it now? Because that's what happens. Does he get off that heel really quickly because he doesn't know all of this? Yeah, Alison. I was trying to get him.
So you said at first he was sort of falling on his right hip, is that right? So those various variations that you were doing with him were to get him to feel like he could come over that right hip without falling?
I was just putting options in there and seeing what his brain could do if I kept him in quality.
With the hope that, so at the end...
His brain will do it. I don't have to do it.
So with the idea that that he would get more, he would feel safer over...
He'd have more adaptability in his foot. He'd have more places he could weight bear on. Not that he could... because I don't want to get him up and he's all on his heel.
No.
Yeah, I want to get him up and he's got all of these places or more places that he can transfer his weight over and feel safe. And that isn't just about his heel. That's understanding in himself all of these different shapes and all of these different possibilities that are going to allow him to organise that.
So in that, sorry to labour
No.
but sorry, in that sense, were you kind of thinking about the way that Cushion told you that he came over his right side as, want of a better term, like a bit of a blind spot for Alistair, that you were bringing a little bit more?
He does. He presses. As soon as he goes that way, he pushes.
Okay.
That's what you're seeing. Yeah. I don't know how to be here and not push.
Okay. Thank you.
I don't know. And it's the same, you know, if I'm on my feet and I know for most people, where they get blisters, or where I can pretty much guarantee that if I took their weight there, they'd be pushing into the floor at that point.
And off their heel. So, yeah.
Wouldn't matter if they were off their heels. They just push. That's why they get blisters there. That's why they get calluses there, because it's pushing really hard. But it's not their foot. It's that they don't have the options of shifting their weight over that point. No? It's not their foot. It's the problem. The issue's never the issue. Yeah. I've got to keep this big idea of what it is that I want someone to understand in the lesson. Yeah. What is integration? Huh? So I'm going with Alistair. I went back to the same with Lockie. Let's keep it reversible. Let's keep it really easy, because if it's reversible, I know that there's more of him available to pay attention to other things. Huh? If I let Alistair come too far over here, his head's fixed, his eyes are fixed, and then I'm going to ask him to attend to multiple things. He's stuck. He can't move his attention here. If I just get him to there, feel it on yourselves. If I just get him to there where it's easy, his head's free, he's got options, and I suggested to you in that place what's happening in your feet, what's happening in your shoulders. And then go too far, you can do it easily. And I'm suggesting all these things to you. So this is you becoming more aware of all of this, you know, how this is your ATM practice. This is the importance of quality. It's the importance of, if I go too far, I can go too far, I've got to come back. Where do I find reversibility? How do I keep finding that way to include all of myself in my image? So that, you know, here and I'm getting stuck. Oh yeah, my chest's tight. Okay, I'll just, what could I do? Oh, just let your weight shift, Julie. Let your head move. What can I do that's going to give me an out? No? So that often, as I said the other day, quality is your first bit that you're looking for. You know, I get stuck. Okay, come back a bit. Find a different trajectory. Find somewhere. And often the different trajectory is going to have to be in your head. It's a little bit like with you yesterday. You always wanted to turn your head. Yeah, when we did this, because you really understand rotation. Huh? But I want someone to understand this, and this, and this. Yeah, and this, and this, and this, and this. And that's what he's doing in all of these ATMs. He's giving you more and more ways to find instability within stability, or stability within instability. Huh? So all of the ATMs are the same in a way. They're just offering you different possibilities by working more proximally or distally, or, you know, getting the quality going first, because I think that's going to be really important to allow people to spread their attention and to do things. And that's where it's for you, what am I teaching as a Feldenkrais practitioner? So, after that little thing, if you now go back to your groups of 3, you were in the other day working out assessing someone, and we used sort of that model of the interview. Yeah, you're trying to find out what they want. You're observing them. Yeah, what do they do when or you're not observing, it doesn't matter, you're getting information. And then we used 2 different ways. We looked at what was of relevance to the person, what movement was of interest to them, and could you begin to assess what was easier for them out of what they were telling you, or what was more difficult? Was it more a stability problem? Was it an instability? You know, what is happening here? Yeah, is it an orientation problem? A little bit like, you know, what we were doing with Angela. And she could go back, Kelly, yeah. Yeah. Probably on the disc, she'd find it difficult to come forward. Yeah. What are the directions? What are the orientations we've got available? Then you're using something that you've got good self-use on, whether it's observing them turning because you feel you've got a fair bit of information there about the many things you could be looking at there. It might be lying on their back and pushing through. Doesn't matter, but that you've got something you can make distinctions about. You're just getting more information. And as I said, this is a continual process. And now you're going to look at this, what we came up with, what makes someone more integrated, and go, what do they need in the big picture here? What am I going to work with in the big picture to help this person? You're following me? Yeah? And then the next bit, and some of them are in here, but if we go back for a second, what is it that we want them to understand about learning? So what are some things that we look for in terms of learning that makes learning easier? That they can shift their attention. Big one. Can they shift their attention? A huge one. And do they look for relationship, or do they just look for parts? Do I have to build the relationship for them? Or can they sort of only feel one thing at a time? Yeah. What else do we look for in learning? Making distinctions, which is that's the fundamental, absolutely fundamental. So here we were talking about attention, making distinctions. We want them to make distinctions in many, many things in their movement. Yeah, and that they're again looking for relationship there. And we have to know they can't do that. How do I begin to build that up for them? What are other things we do in learning? Curiosity. We're sort of trying to evoke curiosity to sort of get them interested. And how much can they do that on their own? How much do I need to sort of encourage that curiosity? It's the gateway. Absolutely. Yeah? What else do we do to be able to make distinctions? What are the things we do? We compare, yeah? So we're compare and contrast. It's a really powerful tool. How do I compare? What's the same on both sides? What's different this way to this way? Huh? What else do we do? Come on, this is the bedrock of our work. Oh, some other people said some things that I didn't. What else did people say over here? Explore, which is it's curious and then explore. We want them to be able to try different trajectories. And that's movement, but that's fundamental to learning. We want you to be able to have different perspectives of looking at the same thing. Sorry? Reversibility, absolutely reversibility. Quality, no? Which is coming back to distinctions again, this distinction, which is the bedrock of so much that we do. Going slowly. Yeah? If we slow down, it gives us more time to make distinctions. Feeling more parts, yeah? Getting more of them in their picture. Differentiation always with the view of more integration. Do you know what I mean? If you can see these little parts, how do they all tie together into a bigger picture? That it's not just about how your weight shifts. That might be the first thing, no? So I can make a distinction. But then I actually feel, oh, I can weight shift. Oh, where does my pelvis go to let me do that? What happens here? No. So I can make more distinctions. What happens in my other hip? So that's attention, really. We're spreading, getting them to include more and more parts of themselves. Novelty. Do they like challenge? Do they like novelty? Huh? How easy is it for them to make mistakes and feel okay about it, to really deeply understand that I have to be able to explore and that it's not about right or wrong. No, it's simply making a distinction to work out what feels better for me, so that I'm becoming the person who's deciding what's better for me. I'm becoming more self-regulating. Huh? So that's the other thing, and this took me a long time to make this explicit to my clients. Huh? And I think it's so valuable, so that the homework I might send them home with, if I thought the issue, their learning thing was that they give me something that they're doing. So I've got someone in, and every time they do a movement, they want to do it really fast. No, that's their way. I'm going to send them home going, what happens if you just slow down? What happens if you even pause for a moment? You give yourself time to pay attention. And maybe we've been doing something on weight shift or... No? But what happens generally in your life if you just slow down? Does it, and maybe find the ground? Does that give you a different perspective now when you're rushing off in your day? Yeah? What happens, again, slowing down is going to be a big one, and you just find you can breathe in different parts of yourself. So we're getting them to make distinctions, pay attention. No? Yeah. Mm-hmm. Or it might be about exploring options, and I can feel they're really resistant. You know what I mean? It's like they don't want to try much new. Is it enough that, lightheartedly I can go, just go home and try cleaning your teeth with the toothbrush in your other hand? Do you know what I mean? Just something that's not necessarily to do with the movements we've been doing, but is profoundly about learning. How does that change my perspective? Why wouldn't I? I'll use anything. Watch Feldenkrais. Honestly, it's the principle of no principles. Whatever works, you do. Whatever you think will facilitate their learning. No? So if someone is very sensate at the end and they've got a particular feeling and they've said, I just feel so light. Could you imagine, this is at the end of the lesson, could you imagine you've got this feeling of lightness, hold it, feel it. Could you imagine doing something that you enjoy doing in your life? I'm not going to the difficulty. Could you imagine something you enjoy doing and keeping this feeling of lightness? No. And then gradually, if that's it, then I can build that on as the lessons continue, that they can take a little bit more challenge and find that feeling of lightness. Mm.
You know how when we were seeing what they wanted, we suggested creating a reference move or something that would help to gauge for them whether this was working for them, you know. That was my understanding anyway. But you mentioned then, and Margaret mentioned, that you don't necessarily want to make that benchmark the thing that's causing them pain. So if they come and say, I can't raise my arm above here, you don't want to say at the end of the lesson, so raise your arm and see how that's going. So obviously that's...
You're going to put more components into it, Linda. Just like I did there with Lockie, you know. So what could you move instead? You know what I mean? What could we include in your image that your shoulder gets softer? So I knew with Lockie, a lot of what I wanted to work with was that he could find more possibilities, more perspectives of shifting his weight. Because what has this got to do profoundly with having more perspectives? This ability for me to do this, what's that profoundly got to do with me being open to different perspectives? Compared to if I'm doing this and my eyes are all over the place. And so whatever that, I'm going to spread what they're doing. I must be honest, I don't use test movements. I don't use them in ATM usually. I think they're a really valuable thing. I'm just saying, for me, I'm probably going more with, but I'm going to have something that is going to make sense of the lesson for them. So I'm always interested, what could this lesson evoke? What's it going to give them an opportunity to explore in themselves a different way? So, you know, when I first started, and it's absolutely fine, it might be putting out the washing. Some people, that's brilliant. But then I've only applied it to putting out the washing. Huh? Whereas is it about that they've learned to put out the washing because every part of them is in the movement? That's what's made it easier. I've got really easy weight shift. My head's free rather than, oh, I can reach higher. Because I haven't put in all the components that have let that happen. No? Which are coming back again to these. No? The inclusive attention. All of me is in the movement. Go, Margaret.
No, don't be sorry. I agree. But one of our big things is to meet people where they are. And some people are so concrete that they need to have something like, I can now hang the washing on the line.
That's what I'm saying.
Yeah.
But we need to give them an idea about why that's got easier.
Yeah. We give them that, anyway, that's all I want to say. So there are shades and we're taking people on a journey.
Yeah. And we're gradually giving them this sense that, you know, oh, that's easy because all of me is ready to go. Yeah. This way, I'm not all ready to go.
Yeah.
If I wanted to transfer it, what could I begin to do? How do I begin to transfer it? What have I learnt? But if I don't know, it's about all of me being in my image. That's about easy weight shift. It's about this being free. It's about possibilities. And that's what we're doing as lessons go on, you know. And you've always got to cater. Some people hate, you know, there are some ATMs where I would never ask anything because they're ATMs that have taken them deeply into their sensory process, into a deeply internal space. So I'm letting them be internal, and maybe I'm going to keep them internal and say, what could I ask them that isn't going to take away from their experience here? What are some questions I could win? What are some questions people have got up and they're deeply into their internal experience? No, because that's going to take them. I might do that to get them, but they're deeply into, and they're global. Huh? You're going to ask them big questions, aren't you? That they've got lots of room to move around in. Hmm? No, I'm not disconnected, but I'm deeply internal. How are you feeling? You know? Yeah, they're different things. But this is what you've got to practice. This is what you've got to do more in your ATM practice. Get up at the end of an ATM and work out what's this lesson evoked in me? What are the questions I would ask? Compared to if I've just done all this rolling and I'm here after the ATM, where I'm much more engaged in the world and I'm going to get me to turn around. Here, I'm a little bit more down. I'm not going to rotate around my axis here, am I? Huh? I'm in the ground. If I turned, I'm going to turn on one leg after a lesson like this. Huh? So, making more distinctions is what I'm talking about. Huh?
And Julie, sometimes you think it's good just to let it percolate. Because sometimes when you come out and you're so internal,
must give them time to percolate.
It's almost better to percolate than just ask them for a distinction, because then that brings them back into the thinking mind.
Jane. Absolutely. And this is where, this is with individual clients as well. Who are the ones you just want to give the time to sit there, that you can see they're oriented. Yeah, they're in themselves. They're just sitting there. Let them feel it. But that the questions you're going to give at that time are congruent with the experience you've given them. Yeah. Well, do it. Walk. Yeah, that's what I'm saying. That's where the questions are going to come from. Not from me telling you what the questions are, but you've taught this whole lesson. You've done the lesson. The questions are they're coming out of you. Do you know what I mean? Not you going, oh, Julie said that I should ask this. Yeah, and you're going to use words, Margaret, maybe this is something you're feeling. Perhaps this might be something that you're feeling. In that state, I'm talking, yeah?
And I think we have to be very careful on that, because if you instruct someone to feel something and they don't feel it, they feel terrible. And that's what we're not on about.
This is what you're playing with all the time. These are the things you're looking, just as we were doing stuff the other day, and you can see they got up after the lesson and they'd started doing all this stuff, and you could see the lesson just disappearing as they went back into their habits. Huh? So what is it that you want to show them? And you've got a whole world in front of you. You've got all this time. I'm just interested in what are the questions that could lead you somewhere useful. Yeah?
With the questions and distinctions and the more spacious, like open-ended questions that you could pertain to or like put in, would you find yourself doing that? Because personally, I find like questions that a lot of them I don't get answers to particularly, but I'm totally with you, Margaret, with just like not feeling good if you don't get the answer sometimes, because that's just sort of how we're wired for the time being. And there is a bit of that, and where you find, like, I guess you just gauge it on the person and the time, whether it's valuable for them or not.
I think what you're trying to do, I agree with you totally. And I think what you're trying to do is, how do you give them outs, like the perhaps or the maybe? How do you engage them in this is a learning process? Maybe you're not feeling what I'm suggesting at the moment. That level of distinctions, but there's still more to learn. There's still more that you can pay attention to. Because we don't want to stop their learning, but we also want to challenge them a little bit too. Notice your response. If you don't feel this, what have you done to yourself?
Yeah, because I really like questions like you just put before about how can you keep unstable with stability, or turn it on its head. And again, because they're like things you can reference back to, questions you can reference back to, and then they'll internally do something to
you. Understand it though. What I'm saying is, I see you on the floor and you can do somersaults and you can change your orientation and you can do all these things. Definitely ask them questions, because you've got a rich experience there.
Yeah, and it can mean different things too, it doesn't,
Yeah, but you understand. You've got an idea about what's stability, what is instability.
Yeah.
Yeah?
Yeah, I know.
So they're the things you as a practitioner can make a lot of distinctions about.
Yeah. Language change a lot, isn't it? Like being able to relate. Because we use ground, and even the ground, it's pretty, it's a basic reference and stuff, but everybody has a different concept attached to that word. And because we habitually use it so much in fieldy lingo, which is really effective for us at that time, it doesn't transpire the same.
How do I describe to someone? This is what Feldenkrais was brilliant at. How do I give them a concrete example of what ground means? What does it mean in my experience? What happens when I don't have ground? Huh?
Yeah.
So, because Lockie put it beautifully the other day, I'm over here with him and he's going, I don't know, what is ground, or do you know what I mean? So what's the first thing I can do is give him a distinction. What does it feel then, Lockie, if you're ungrounded? Can you even make that distinction? Because if you can't make that distinction, there's no point me talking about ground. You can't make the distinction that here I'm ungrounded, here I'm grounded.
Yeah.
Yeah. And that's what you're playing with. People have, it's the whole press and lift. And, a lot of people will say push the ground, but they'll when they say push the ground, they're doing that. We don't want push the ground. It's that difference between I've got a wall here and I'm just going to try and push it over, which isn't going to take me anywhere, compared to I can use the wall to give me lift. I'm pressing into the wall and it's giving me lift. Yeah? But these are the things you're working with all the time. Anyway, let's go back. We got distracted. Could you go back into your groups of 3? And you're going to work out in terms what maybe 1 or 2 things within this big picture that I think it would be really valuable to think about when I'm working with this person, and you can chat about it amongst yourselves, it doesn't matter. And what's something in terms of learning that I think would be interesting? Huh? So, if I've got someone really resistant on the table, that I can feel, and it's often anxiety, everything is going to be reversible. Everything I do is about reversibility. Yeah? That's the learning part that I'm interested in, that would be really great for them to understand. Or everything has to be, timing's a huge one. What's their timing? I've got to pick the timing where they're making distinctions. Yeah? Or how do I keep them interested if they keep going to sleep? What's happened? I've got to keep all of them in the picture. I've got to keep moving across the ground. That's going to be my thing. I'm going to keep you interested here because you're just going to go, oh, yeah. Ground's really powerful, you know, just when we were doing the walking the other day. You know, someone's going to be interested if I'm not, they're not interested if I'm not asking a clear question. So can I improve the clarity of what I'm asking them with my hands? That I'm saying, I'm looking for the relationship between your pelvis and the base of your neck. And if I've got that clarity, I'm pretty sure they're not going to go to sleep. But if I'm just going, I'm moving your pelvis. Isn't that nice? And maybe some people need that. I'm not, but it's, what is it that would help this person? So get in your groups, off you go.